All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Coastside Fire Protection District Board of Directors regular board meeting, May 25th, 2022. This is the first meeting in some 2 years approximately that we're having a hybrid meeting with some of our members of the board on Zoom and others here in present, and possibly the same with the public. Roll call, please.
Yes, good evening. Director Cockrell.
Here.
Director McKinney.
Here.
Director Sherrill.
Here.
Director Stockman.
Here.
President Burke.
Here.
Thank you.
Also, Chief Cox and Chief Armstrong are also present here in the meeting this evening. Let's have a pledge of allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America. School, liberty, and justice for all.
Very well, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Hang on, Gene,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna recuse myself from the first section and then I think something else after that.
Yes, you should recuse yourself from all but the approval of the minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
And with Director McKinney's recusal, I move to approve a motion to approve the consent calendar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call, please. Jean.
Director Cockrell.
Yes.
Director McKinney, as to 5A and B, the minutes.
yes,
Director Sherrill.
Yes.
Director Stockman.
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes. Moving on to continuing business, item A, review and discuss draft program update on Fire Station 44 replacement feasibility study. Chief Cox.
Thank you, President Burke. You'll find in the board packet the what's called the program, Fire Station Space Program. And what this is a result of several meetings with the G2 firm that we hired to do the study of what the district would need to build a new fire station. I think it's important to put it in context. This is before they can go to a design phase to actually see what they can site on the building. This is literally to say, what do you guys need? And that's what this document is. It's looking at all the square footage needs, the bedroom needs, the apparatus bay needs, so that when they go to a design phase, they can wrap it all up and see how they can get all of those pieces onto the actual land itself. So this is our opportunity as a district to give feedback as to increased program, decreased program, any feedback that would be needed to inform the design phase on the next phase. And this again came out of a couple meetings, one with the Land and Structures Committee, one with the station and admin staff, as well as some on-site visits of looking at all of the infrastructure, water, sewer, heights, and whatnot.
I'm still wondering, can we pitch it, excuse me, sideways and then have a pull-through station? I
Yeah.
thought that's what they might have looked at first.
So yeah, I think it's a chicken and egg for them. They need to know what the full package is before they can start doing siting. I think the next phase will be, here's what we need, and they'll come back with concepts of how they would site that up, down, sideways, and around. So right now it's just getting the package they need to actually get the site design made.
Got it.
What is the next step in revising this into something doable? Who and how?
Yeah, so the next phase of this was phase one. So the phase two would be going back to them to kind of that pre-design phase of, hey, can we actually do the siting of this program on this site? So that would be the next phase that we would engage with them on the consulting project basis.
What would be the timing of that? What are we talking, months or?
Yeah, I don't think it would be more than 3 or 4 months. The program took probably 4 months total, so I think it would be a similar timeline.
So yourself, chief, and other management staff people will look at this and make some decision, including Director McKinney, and that would be inputted into the next step.
Yeah, so I think that the phasing of this would be getting real definitive feedback from the Land and Structures Committee as to any changes to this, and then engaging the next phase with them to do the pre-design of the siding of the building on that lot.
Questions or comments? Cynthia, yes, Steve.
A general question in regards to obligations for choosing an architect who's going to bring the best product that meets the needs of the community. Is there a way within the early parts of this process that helps us choose an architect that has a history of bringing forth a project that fits the unique requirements of this station, small station, I mean, biggest station on the smallest lot? Or are we restricted by simply the bidding process?
Chief?
Yeah, I think a couple of things on that, Director Stockman. One is the scope of this architect that we hired, architecture and engineering, is just to look at the feasibility of it, right?
Right.
To say, is this feasible, right? The
Understood.
design/build phase, and Gene helped me with the procurement side, would be going back out to contract, essentially, putting it out there to then choose an architect to design build phase.
Right, and I guess what my concern would be is to use, because we've just completed in the last few years, Station 41, that maybe we use our lessons learned from that build early on in the process, incorporate that in to have the best opportunity to get the premium architect that's going to meet the community's needs. So that can be part of a later discussion, but I plant that seed early.
Thank you. JB?
Yeah, I think the thing to me that I was in discussions with Bruce a little bit earlier, having to do with, when I look at this, I think the thing that jumps out at me is it looks like a 40 by 80 foot box. If I got that right? The apparatus floor. We have a 45 foot apparatus, I guess it's tough, and whatever else they've got in there. In the truck, utility and something else. And so once we figure out how we place that 40 by 80 foot box, which is the basic fire station, then everything else, I think, becomes somewhat easier, unless and then the rest of the stuff, my gosh, I don't think he missed anything that could possibly be available. Factory air, white walls, they got everything. But before we can do anything, we've got to find out, is this 40 by 80 foot box going to fit?
Yeah.
Well, all the things that they've outlined here will fit. It's how they fit together is the next step.
Yeah, and whether it's drive-through or, they'll look at things like you can't do 2 double deep apparatus bays. You can do 1 double deep and 2 singles that you can drive through 2 of them, kind of thing. Those are the options I'll bring back to say, to meet your requirements, here's how we can cite it.
And Steve, to your point, we're not obligated to take low bid if we get to the architectural hiring and so forth. We have latitude in that area, so hopefully we'll do a good job of making sure we make the correct selection. Cynthia? did
No.
you-
Yeah, thank you. I think I was crossing over into the contractor that builds it. So I didn't want to add confusion to that. So thank you for that.
I believe the word is lowest feasible bid. Define feasible. I think that's where the board has some discretion.
That's correct. That's why we're table. Anyway, Cynthia, did you have any comments on this subject?
Well, I used to do an awful lot of these, and it looks to me like they've done a very nice job. The net to gross ratios are pretty tight. It's not a generous amount of circulation space. in the interior of the station itself. There have perpetually been discussions about how that circulation space, the net to gross ratio factor is calculated. But for a first pass, this is fine. It's fine. It's a good job. It's tight,
Yes.
but I guess you would want that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, and as we all know, we were running out of possible choices as to where to upgrade the facilities and the station. So the fact that they can, or appears to be that we can get a first-class station built on that lot is, I find, very encouraging.
Yes, yes, indeed. And it certainly is a thorough program. They're a very experienced firm. They did a great job.
Great to hear. Any other comments? There is no, this is just an information item. So moving on to item B, Community Facilities District number 36, Harvard Village RV Park, 100 Capistrano Road, Half Moon Bay, Chief Cox.
Yep, this is a fairly mundane one. This is really just declaring the special district results for this CFD number 36 in the district.
So do we have the results now that we had no objections to it? Is that correct?
No objections.
No
That's correct. And I can grab the ballot right now if that's important.
But there is no objections to that, to doing that. Then with that, assuming there's no objection, I'll make a motion to drop resolution number 2022-16, resolution declaring the result of the special election and directing recording of notice of special lien. And that there was no objections to the motion. I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes,
Director Cheryl,
Yes,
Director Stockman,
Yes,
President Burke.
Yes.
Resolution is approved 5-0.
Go on to item 2 under the same item, agenda item, the motion of number 2022-02, simply provide an ordinance levying taxes on the new consumer facility
Community
facilities district number
It's tough, I
36.
agree.
This will create an audience levying the taxes on that particular district number 36. And I make a motion to adopt that ordinance.
So I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
yes,
Director Cheryl,
yes,
Director Stockman,
yes,
President Burke. Motion is approved 5-0.
Moving on to item C, weed abatement, Chief Cox.
Thank you. This is the resolution for the board to actually undertake the abatement of weeds. This is, I believe, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 102 lots within the district that have failed to adhere to the weed abatement notice they got. This will be actually taking action on their land and putting the cost back on their tax roll.
Very good. And then I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-17, resolution of the board of directors of the Coastside Fire Protection District, authorize the fire chief to undertake the removal of weeds and abatement of public notice. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Steve?
Chief Cox, is this an average number? Is this a normal number of people that don't respond? Do we see any change in that from year to year?
Yeah, I believe it is fairly average. I do know this year they expanded the number of lots on the list. They audited it pretty significantly, going lot by lot. So it's not outside the realm of normal.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not,
I'd like to discuss a little bit, at our last meeting, we had a member of the public who expressed some very strong opinions on our weed abatement program. Are we satisfied that we dealt with that?
Yeah, and Gary can,
Yeah, so we've been working with the city on that, and we removed all the lots from our role that show that have any type of habitat that's protected. And the city is They were gonna do a biologist, but now they decided not to. They're looking at other avenues of clearing those lots with goats or other means. They're still looking into that. So we have basically waiting for the city at this point to determine what they're gonna do with all the lots that they have protected, and that citizen was concerned about a lot of their lots, the city lots. So we're working with the city, just waiting for them to get back to us on
So
which way they're gonna go.
do I understand if the city wants to protect some lots, then they are responsible for clearing them?
Well, that's the city-owned lots, some of them.
Oh,
So
okay.
there, so we used to send the city a lot of weed abatement notices, and they, some of those are protected habitat areas, so they're trying to find other means to do it, and that's the citizen complaints with some of those lots.
Okay,
So we're working with the city on trying to mitigate that and keep everybody happy.
thank
So
you.
I know they do have some goats that working in some areas right now, and they're looking if that's gonna work to move on to these other areas as well.
Very good. Any further comments? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell. Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Director Sherrill,
Yes,
Director Stockman,
Yes,
President Burke.
Yes.
Resolution passes 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7. No, excuse me. The item D under continuing business, discuss potential uses for the southern portion of land at Fire Station 41555 Obispo. And I'll introduce this, and I'm going to ask Director Stockman to chip in on this, but informally, I had a number of suggestions. We have a small portion of the lot there that currently has a, I believe, CAL FIRE sign on it and some trees and that type of thing. That particular area has a lot of foot traffic as well as vehicle traffic going up and down that. And a number of people have looked at it and have commented on their suggestions as to what might be done with that land. And there's everything, the suggestions I've had have been put benches on it, have some kind of a flower garden and various other kinds of suggestions. It is the gateway to El Granada and is part of the El Granada plan, I believe. And the El Granada Service District is in the process of doing some planning on what may be done in that entire area. And I think one of the reasons that that particular area has come under some scrutiny is how would it fit into their planning. The only other comment I would make at this point is that we have asked Gene Savary and subsequently Kerry Burke, no relation, to take a look at, you know, what we are responsible, what is the Coastside Fire Protection District responsible, and if we or somebody else were to make a suggestion, that what would we approve? And Kerry provided us a very lengthy description of what it is that might be happening, what the county would be involved in, and what we would be involved in. And with that, I would ask Director Stockman if you'd chip in what your thoughts are on this item.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity. You know, I brought this point up, I would say early on, before we even broke ground on 41 or somewhat in the early process, that it seemed like that little piece of property was left out of the overall design. And, but at this point, I think it's actually worked out better that there's an opportunity to develop it that really fits in with the overall plan of that part of El Granada and Granada's district's plan to develop that strip or improve that strip. And with that, I recognized early that there's an opportunity for some level of partnership, or at least reaching out for that partnership that I think serves the district's needs and also the community's needs. I don't project it being a large cost item, but I think it's a good opportunity to move the project through with less, with more cooperative effort and a better result within those partnerships. I see those partnerships possibly being county parks, the Granada district, and the county of San Mateo. they've already developed an overall plan for that area. I think this little sliver of R41 property could be incorporated into that overall plan. I think the benefit of that would be from an appearance and from a connection standpoint to the overall project. I think there's a potential for the county to possibly improve, to enter into this partnership and maybe complete the sidewalks that go from where it ends at the bottom, at the apparatus apron, the driveway, up overall onto the street. So those are my initial observations. I did have an informal conversation with Barbara Dye, who's the board lead or president for Granada District. And I felt that she was open to the idea, or at least bringing it forward to her board, which I think is positive. I think with that, an initial good first step for our board is to send a letter to Granada District saying that we have an interest in some kind of partnership, or their viewpoint on how we could work together to develop that to meet, that would be to the benefit of their district also. And then maybe from that point, seeing if there's a position for county parks and a conversation with the county as far as the overall development. So I think we've discussed previously, I think once that point moves forward, then we can start getting input from the board of what commitment we want to make to that property and what it could be. The initial things I see personally as an El Granada resident is some kind of gateway, kind of like Half Moon Bay has done in front of 40, the sign that says welcome to El Granada. We've discussed within the board informally, it could be a bench, it could be a picnic table, it could be some additional signage. The signage could be to meet the overall community needs as well as the fire districts. It might be a place to post bulletins, signage for upcoming events within the community. So those are some of my first general views. I think one positive thing in a partnership is that the Granada District already has a local architect that has developed their overall plans. Maybe we can ask if there is an opportunity for us to work with that architect to just incorporate that small piece of 41's undeveloped section into their overall plan, instead of using a separate architect, a separate landscape architect, but just use what's already in place to make that the easiest move forward. So, so in summarization, it's like my ideas are partnership, and then the initial step being maybe from the board president, a letter to their board president to express that interest and their input.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Further comment? Yeah.
It's my understanding that the Mid-Coast Community Council also has some ideas. So it seems to me that before the board can even consider anything, everyone thinks, well, let's do something with it, but no one really has crystallized around what they want to do with it. And it seems to me that if the Mid-Coast Community Council and the Granada Community Services District were to get together and either have a person we could deal with that would represent both groups, or establish an ad hoc committee that includes both groups, and then have them come up with an agreed upon use of the land, or maybe a choice of uses that we could consider to approach us. I think if we're going to do it, I would buy it today. I'm surprised just how much land there is there. It would seem to me that to be responsible, we would have to have the buy-in of those two other groups, the Mid-Coast Community Council and the and the Granada Community Services District boards. Those would be two different boards. And then I would have a question for Chief Cox. Is that land where the gateway to Halfmoon Bay is located, is that on fire station property?
The gateway to
Yes.
El Granada,
The
No.
gateway to Halfmoon Bay,
this one here?
yes,
No, all this out here is not our property.
okay.
No,
Because there's a big sign just south of here.
right,
Says welcome to Halfmoon.
not our property.
Main Street, Halfmoon, okay. So that, we can't really compare the two then, because that's not on fire district property. Got it, okay. So that's my feeling. I don't know, Steve, whatever, you started, you lit this fire, now let's see if we can get something productive out of it. That's a good idea.
Cynthia,
One of the things that strikes me is that in the northeast corner of that property, I'm sorry, the southeast corner, to the right are two schools. So that property is heavily trafficked, and there's a lot of pedestrian traffic with citizens, with younger residents who are elementary school aged. So whatever we do, there should be, that should be kept in mind as a programmatic element, that we are serving a busy intersection with a lot of car traffic from families and a lot of pedestrian traffic from elementary and elementary aged students.
Can I just
It's
make?
also, of course, sorry, it's also a major access to the beach and the surfers that park across from the fire station as we speak anyway, who, again, sidewalks might be helpful there because they walk out into traffic with their boards.
Consideration looking at that lot and thinking about slope requirements, putting in a straight a sidewalk. I don't know what the requirements are, but I believe it's pretty steep slope there. And I don't know what the engineering that will be required to meet code will be on that lot.
no, good point. Just my comments, not to be negative about this, but we've got a lot of things on the burner today, and everybody that, at least the people I've spoken to, is any indication, there's no lack of ideas as to what can be done of that program. I would, on my top 10 list, developing that little lot doesn't appear. And I would, as I've asked before, I would like to, really ask the fire chief to give a long-range view. Is there any possible thing that might be done before we jump into something else? But, my personal feeling is that, if somebody really has a viable idea that makes sense and all that type of thing, come talk to us. We're open. We'll take a look at it. But I'm not in favor of forming a citizens committee to spend an awful lot of time looking at it and trying to figure out what's best, because that kind of locks us in, and you don't come out 100% favorable with that kind of a situation. So I just like to see, number one, let's wait when the El Granada Gateway plan is completed. I understand there's going to be a trail right across from the fire station, and that may change the appearance of that spot and bring up new ideas that might be possible. Anyway, that's my thoughts. At this point, there's no action required on it. It's just a discussion, and we've had it, and hopefully we'll have further discussions. Anything further? Okay.
Gary, I share your concern about opening a process that has the benefit of partnership, but that takes away or has a limit on our ability to control that piece of property that's to the benefit to the district in which we serve as governors. So I share that, and I hope the process and those that come forward respect that process that ensures a benefit to the entire community.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments? Moving on to new business. Item A, resolution finding the meeting of the Board of Directors via teleconferencing project against ongoing imminent health and safety risks posed by COVID-19, and determining that all such meetings will continue to be held in hybrid format to allow attendance in person or remotely pursuant to government code section 54953, parentheses E. Chief Cross.
I will defer this one to Jean.
As President Burke indicated at the beginning of the meeting, you know, you did your meetings throughout the COVID crisis remotely. And now some public entities, including you, have made a decision that you would like to do hybrid meetings, which allows the public the opportunity to attend in person, or if they feel safer, attending by way of Zoom to do that. And this resolution is required to be adopted at each one of your meetings in order to continue to allow you the option to do hybrid meetings. So with that said, I'll answer any questions, but if you wish to continue in this format, I would request that you approve this resolution. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve, adopt resolution number 2022-18. I have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion, comments?
I would just say that this is a good first look at how this hybrid works. And I think so far we're only halfway into the meeting, but it seems effective. So next month, I intend to join the rest of the group in person, but I like this approach.
Thank you, Steve. Anything else? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKinney,
Yes.
Director Sherrill,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke,
Yes.
resolution adopted 5-0.
Moving on to new business item B. And I'm going to, if there's no objections, I'm going to ask that item to review and discuss updates to the strategic plan be postponed to a later meeting, either July or August. And my reasons very simply is there are a number of financial issues that would be affected by whatever strategic plan we have. And a lot of that depends on what our year-end fund balance is. So I think it would be more efficient to adopt and discuss it, as they say, in July or August, whatever the agenda looks like. I would just add is that, you know, it's become clear that in terms of our ongoing strategic plan, the items that jump up on us are the completion of Station 44, vegetation management, additions and changes in that area. And also, as the board will find a little more information a little bit later in the meeting, what we decide to do with CalPERS. And all of those have overriding financial ramifications. So we'll wait till the end of the financial year and the new budget is in, if that's agreeable. Hearing no objections, we'll move on. To the Board of Directors, Chief reports, the Finance Committee. I'll just take a whack at this, JB, and anything you want to add. First of all, the board asked for and received an analysis of our CalPERS debt and from Urban Futures Organization, and they did provide that this evening. It's a public document available to anybody in the public, and really outlined a number of steps, where we are, what are the pros and cons of making different moves in terms of the Section 115 or some other choices regarding that debt with CalPERS. And at subsequent meetings, as I said a little bit earlier, that as we find out where our financial standing is at the end of the fiscal year, we'll take some challenges for that. The second item I've mentioned on the under the Financial Committee is that there's been a great deal of confusion raised about ERAF monies that are directed from return to the special districts to the state each year. To this district, it amounts to $1.6 million, and to other special districts, I think there's 12 or 16 of them, even in San Mateo County. Each of them have a different amount of money that's returned to them. Those ERAF fundings that come back to the special districts and the cities and county have been in place since 25 years. There's been some activities apparently that's very confusing change some of that activity, and that is causing some disruption between the state, the county, and special districts. And that is, meetings are being held to resolve all that, and more will be done in the next couple of weeks to resolve and come to a conclusion on that. And my comments, I have no conclusion, just to bring it up to the board that items and discussions are going on that general subject. The only other item I would add is that in our packet is our spreadsheet on us, all our checks and finances and so forth. We're 10 months through the year, and our finances are in very solid shape with nothing out of line. With that, JB.
No, you covered it very well, thank you. This pension thing is the thing that I found interesting, and I actually learned quite a bit. And when you buy a car or you buy anything, your debt is firm. You may know exactly how much you're gonna pay. Well, apparently, with pension funding, it doesn't work that way. That amount you think that you owe can go up or down at the whim of the market. And at the moment, near term, it's going down because of the market returns. But then since a couple of months ago, it seems to be going the other way. In which case, the actual amount we have to pay off is during this period is rising. And so one of the things that Gary mentioned was the two different ways of paying this off. One being a 115 trust and the other one being just a plain early payment, sort of a voluntary early payment, like you might make on your house or your car when you pay money towards the principal. That would be the similarity, but it dies because the amount you're paying on also goes up and down. And that's what I got out of it.
Let me add two quick comments. One is that this discussion having to do with CalPERS has nothing to do with CAL FIRE, zero. This has to do with organizations that the board had in place some 15 years previously. And secondly, I just emphasize the fact that we're not trying to get out of any payments of things that we've contracted to, but this is the discussion is what is the most efficient way to pay it, not to get out of paying it. Anything else?
That's it.
No? Okay. Cynthia, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Volunteer committee report?
The last volunteer meeting was an informal meeting, and as such, there was nothing done on the record. It's still, even though it was an informal meeting, which basically meant a get together, they still had 9 volunteers there. In addition, Steve Stockman showed up. So I thought it was a very good, very enjoyable meeting without all the stiffness of a formal meeting. And so that's, there was no financial reports of that, or no resolutions voted on. And we got a chance to find out how successful our program was and how many of our volunteers have now gotten employment in the fire services.
That it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Land and Structures Committee, Director Cockrell, Director McKinney.
Well, we've kind of been dealing with all that. I think that was dealt with on the record.
Okay, nothing to add. All right, very good. Vegetation Management, is it Cynthia's, this one, or Director Stockman?
Stockman.
That's myself. I don't have any specific updates. I'll pass that on for Chief Cox and his chief's report to maybe give any updates on the current status of the El Granado Resiliency Program. There is a partnership meeting tomorrow, and we will update that in the next meeting. So thank you.
You. Special Districts Association, Santa Clara County Chapter. I represented us on that thing. I attended a 1-hour Zoom meeting today on the subject that I discussed earlier, having to do with ERAP payments. But other than that, there's nothing additional to report on that item. ALS JPA, no report. Fire District Association, let's see, California, no report. Emergency Preparedness, Director Cheryl.
I spoke with Director Stockman earlier about him taking this report this evening.
Steve?
This is the emergency preparedness. Okay, Cynthia, I was confused by that then. So we both attended the last, we're talking about the KEEP meeting though, right? So,
Unless you have additional information.
no, I don't have anything additional. So, I apologize. Let's say nothing to report.
Okay.
I apologize, Cynthia.
No worries. No worries.
um,
We saw presentations from the Salvation Army and from Human Services Association, or HSA, with Todd Blair. But they were really just presentations on how those agencies function and what their role in an emergency response would be. So there was nothing that this group wouldn't already be aware of.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Cynthia, update on CERT.
Okay, CERT just can't stand still. They've been, we are very, very grateful to this community who came up with $17,870 to COSIDE CERT through COSIDE Gives. So we are funded through this next year. For the first time in our 3-year history, we actually have a reserve fund. So we feel like a real organization now. And we are very, very grateful for these operating funds. We continue to be 100% community funded and 100% volunteer. So we love COSIDE Gives. Number 2, we did a neighborhood command post demonstration at the senior campus, which includes senior COSIDers, the adult care facility there, Bloom Lane, the Leslie Gardens behind it, Ocean View Plaza, that whole area. We did a demonstration of how to set up a neighborhood command post with the FSTI equipment we were awarded. And the fire Engine 40 came by and talked about what does a neighborhood command post mean to that, or to each neighborhood on the coast side, that they will be coming by in an emergency, and in 90 seconds, they need a situation report. They need to know what that neighborhood needs. They need to leave behind supplies and information, and they need to take off for the next. Importance
There we go.
of having, of being prepared in the neighborhood of over 600 people where more than 50% have mobility issues. So we are working to help that neighborhood get prepared. We also held a very successful Stop the Bleed class at Fire Station 40 on Saturday morning with about 45 people. We had excellent instructors from San Francisco Public Health who instructed, and then there was a lot of hands-on practice, and 45 people graduated with a certificate now in Stop the Bleed. So this is our continuing ACT or Advanced CERT training courses that emphasize 1 or 2 particular topics and give a lot of hands-on experience in that. So these are our 339 CERTs who are eligible coming back and getting additional advanced training. So that was great. And then for our 4th and last thing here, we trained another class of 30 Listos graduates in Spanish at the Ted Adcock Center at the same time that the Stop the Bleed class was going on. But that was a full class and a wonderful one, and miracle of miracles, we appear to be about to close up our City of Half Moon Bay grant with Alice and Listos on time, and having met our requirement, our opportunity, let me put it that way, to train 100 Spanish-speaking residents of the coastside community in personal emergency preparedness and response before July 1st. We'd like to thank Captain Joe Santos, who stepped forward. Our instructor came down with COVID pretty much at the last minute, and Captain Santos, who is trilingual in Spanish, Portuguese, and English, stepped up, and he had taken the Train the Trainer class before COVID 2019, And he was a very fine teacher for us on the day, and we appreciate that. Thank you for allowing an active duty firefighter to come and save the day by training this class of 30. We appreciate it.
Very good. That it, Cynthia?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
Nothing, thank you.
Fire marshal's report?
Yeah, so since we didn't talk about it last month, for March and April combined, 139 plan reviews came across the desk. So we're doing about 70 a month right now, plan reviews, which are taking up a lot of time of the staff. Construction inspections, as a result of the plan reviews, we've done 50 for this month so far, just this month alone. And then special permits, so like the Jazz and Wine Festival, things like that would come, 3 inspections and multiple meetings and stuff, helping set those special permits up. And then business inspections, we've kind of started our annual inspection rotation already, trying to get a little bit ahead of this year. So we're at 12 right now for the mandatory inspections that we've kind of started early. And smoke detector inspections for this month, we've done 47.
Perfect.
So that's where we're at right now. And
Great,
lots
thank
of new projects coming across the desk. They have proposed another housing development on Lewis Foster Drive, which is a couple hundred homes from 800 square feet to 2,400 square feet. And it would definitely cause chaos for traffic
No kidding.
being on Lewis Foster Drive.
Wow.
But the city proposing that one right now.
Did I understand you say that whole property below the school, they're proposing to build a number of homes?
Yeah, I believe a couple hundred from 800 square feet to about 2,400 square feet. And
200 homes.
I'm not I'm not on a traffic advisory committee or anything like that, but it looks like a traffic nightmare.
Yeah. it does.
And just the entrance and exits to it, we would have to open up into the next neighborhood up for having egress out of the neighborhood, because you can't have one way in, one way out. So there's a lot of hurdles to jump, but that's brand new, fresh. Just came across our desk, I think last week, so we should have more to address on that.
Well, that'll definitely help traffic out here, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe add a couple
I'm
more
the
stoplights.
optimist.
But that's all we have
Thank you.
so far.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fire chief's report. Chief Cox first, and then perhaps Chief Armstrong, or vice versa.
Sure, happy to go first.
Come on.
Just a couple things. COVID continuing with our testing twice a week of employees. We have had several cases over the last few weeks that are representative of kind of what's going on in the population in general. But we'll continue with our internal protocols and our testing. Apparatus, the 2 type 1s that we ordered a year ago are still on track for a September delivery. And the 3rd type 1 we have ordered and paid up front for the discount, which is, I believe we got a 27-month ETA on getting that one delivered. So it's taking longer and longer. We also placed the order for the type 3 that was approved last month as well. So both of those orders are in. Staff vehicles, we continue with the replacement according to the replacement plan. The BC vehicles, there's 2 left to outfit. 1 is in for outfitting right now. The second will go in when that's completed. Like everything, we're at the mercy. It's a broken record of supplies. Facilities, we should be getting back the plan from the landscape designer that the board approved for what a updated landscaping would look like out here at Station 40 for the board to review. I have a meeting with her on Friday to see what her initial assessments are, but looking forward to seeing what she comes back with. The security cameras for here and for Station 44 installation should begin in about 2 weeks. They have purchased all of the parts. We did opt to add on a low light camera on the training tower to look at some of the darker areas of the property. So at night we have eyes out there. They will be monitored on the compound by the on-duty staff. They'll have a screen that they can see the cameras at all times. And we will have another avenue for the narcotics office where our narcotics are kept under surveillance. So that's on track and should be done hopefully by the next board meeting. Just one item to note, the old property that we sold to El Granada, or sorry, the Harbor District, when we split the new Station 41 lot, We have an obligation to a small dirt pile still on that lot. Nothing outstanding, probably in the realm of a couple $1,000s, but we will be making sure that that gets mitigated. We're in contact with the Harbor District. From everything we can tell, talking with legal, it's our dirt. And it's ours to get rid of. So we're hopefully we can get that accomplished sooner than later, and our obligation be done.
Not the contractor.
Yeah. Well,
Good luck. Okay, thank you.
yeah. As far as the kind of the countywide stuff, the continue to attend these meetings with public safety communications regarding the new CAD. At a global level, what's called the Live MUM system, which is the move up module of CAD. So there's the CAD that dispatches, and there's another piece of software that tells the dispatcher which engines to move to provide coverage. It used to be very kind of predictable and defined. They've gone to a dynamic system, and it's caused, not so much on the coast side, but on the bay side, it's caused a lot of movement and a lot of unpredictability. So we've had countywide meetings with the other fire chiefs to try to get back to a more predictable module system, ensuring that we have coverage in all locations, including the coast. So I'm confident we'll get there. It's just, you know, as we look at the technology, sometimes the basics are a little more understandable than going into really long theoreticals. As far as personnel go, the new BCs are in place and doing well. Chief West is probably the one you see out here the most. He's the split funded position with the county. It's good to have them taking some of the load of the management work off. And we currently have open recruitment going on for fire apparatus engineer, paramedics for several positions in this district. As far as the volunteers, Chief Cosgrave has been working pretty close with dispatch on an updated protocol for dispatching the volunteers. The current system is the call comes in, then the dispatcher has to remember to send out the general alarm for the volunteers. We want to cut that out and just put them on the initial dispatch, so they'll get alerted as soon as the fire comes out. It's a process issue with dispatch, but we think it will lead to more calls for them and more responses for them to keep them involved. And finally, just significant incidents. There are crews here at 40 and Battalion 10. We're on a pretty significant call. Pescadero Creek Road, a vehicle drove at a high speed off the cliff. Several fatalities and just difficult call for them, significant call for the coast. As far as tools and equipment go, the SCBAs we're waiting on delivery, the SCBAs that were ordered this year. The new volunteer radios are here and in service. So the ones that we got on a grant, if you remember, we approved a grant last year, those are now in service. And I had a meeting, or we had a meeting several weeks ago with RCD, County Parks, and all of the stakeholders, agency stakeholders for the El Granado Wildfire Resiliency Study. So, and we spent probably 3 hours with the consultant and the fire scientists going through the issue of structures as a fuel source and how you model that, and how the science is really inaccurate. It's a very open-ended system when you start looking at the variables there, especially because weather is hard to predict. But really came back to the genesis of that study, which is looking at and focusing on the fire flow pathways into El Granado. So how is fire most likely to enter El Granado? Because that's something that you can model and you can really take action on putting mitigation measures in place. And tomorrow we actually have a partner meeting with all of the partners of that study to look at the next iteration of the maps and what those fire paths look like. So I think that's on a good track. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Very good. So the RCD study, we will expect to see that in the relatively near future?
Yeah, I believe, I talked to Sheena today, I believe June 30th is their deadline for being complete with it.
I don't know if you've seen it, but is it asking or requiring anything or specifically of the Coastside Fire Protection District?
Yeah, not that I know of. The conversations we had is that they were gonna add all of the kind of peripheral stuff that's already in place, weed abatement, home hardening programs at the state, the vegetation management action plan as an appendix or by reference. But really what this study is looking at are what are the projects that can be done in the lands around El Granada that would stop or slow the fire paths into El Granada.
Very good, Chief. Chief Armstrong?
Well, as usual, Jonathan doesn't leave much on the table. But he is being, I think, pretty modest on that whole live mum point. Jonathan has been untold, I guess. I volunteered him for a very small working group to make sure that our interests are covered, because he's one of the few people that understands the technology as well as the history, I think, in the county as far as those move ups go and everything. And so it's nice to, while everybody's focused on this, the whole thing on the Bay side, making sure that the interests are still looked at here for the coast. Similarly, I found I bullied myself onto a statewide committee, talking about the paramedic hiring and so forth. One of the benefits is, contracting with CAL FIRE is it's kind of the one-stop shop, HR, everything's all done. But at the same time, it's the state and we get very set in the ways and everything. And that's caused some recruitment and retention difficulties in those paramedic ranks. And that's finally evident to the state, to the department as a whole. So we have some really great leadership at the top right now, I think, that's very proactive and willing to think outside the box, and have formed a very small working group with like a very short time frame to really make sure that we're have good mechanisms in place to both recruit and retain our paramedics going forward. So I know you guys know we always run a couple of vacant slots. Hopefully in a year's time or so, we're in a better place statewide and locally here in San Mateo County to make sure that we aren't running those vacancies. I'll do everything I can to strong arm people in that. So that's really all I kind of to add on from my perspective. Any questions?
Questions, anybody?
No,
I just had a couple of quick things I'd like to add.
Steve has one when you're done.
I'm sorry, Steve? Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, no, just some quick comments. That personnel issue, I'd like to, the community to know that that's a statewide issue. They're really recruiting and holding skilled positions is a challenge for all districts and cities in the fire service, and especially paramedics, because there's a shortage of trained personnel. So everybody's competing for the same personnel. I would just ask for staff to maybe throughout the chief's reports to keep us updated on how that might affect service levels to the coast side. And I appreciate that the state's looking at it on a large scale. And then with that, I would ask that that staff advise us as a board anytime where we feel that we can do something to affect that retaining of employees, whatever that might look like in the future from those conversations. Because as a serving board member, my concern is what the service levels are going to be to this community, what that we as a board provide the greatest potential for the highest level of service to the coast side. So that does touch upon on having a consistent, complete staff that's always that we don't have open positions. So with that, I appreciate what you've done to move in that direction, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Cynthia?
I'd just like to offer congratulations to the city of Half Moon Bay that launched their inaugural Wine and Jazz Fest and did it safely and successfully, which is a key part of their whole economic redevelopment plan for the city of Half Moon Bay and this region. So thank you to the city of Half Moon Bay for doing a good job with that.
Thank you.
Of course, Chief Lord and his folks supported that effort.
Thank you. A couple of quick items I've mentioned. One is that the PAS board investments for the district had a very challenging month in April, as most people well, the market understand that there was a loss of some $233,000 for the month of that. But if you look at our standing of it, we still are very well funded with approximately $4 million adequate in that. And our 3-year return is 6%, and our 10-year return in PARs is some 7%. So even with that monthly setback, we're still doing very well. Last item I'd like to mention is that in our packet forever is, back up to a moment, the board has with CAL FIRE an operating plan that dictates how and what kind of service and they're going to do. And it's a very detailed report. And each month, we, the board, receive monthly statistics on a whole variety of things that relative to operations, a number of incidents, the number of volunteers. We have the response time that it takes the firefighters to get to any particular area, and on and on. A very detailed report. And it's in a packet each month, and it's available to the public. And I don't recall ever recently talking about this report. At one time in the distant past, this was the basis of a lot of frustration of the board and a lot of really antagonism in a lot of ways. My point of bringing it up is that, first of all, it is being done excellently. I think the job that Chief Cox, Chief Armstrong, and all the men and women of CAL FIRE have done, as reflected in this report, is simply outstanding. And I'm sure I would express the board members' appreciation for the continued the great job you're doing as reflected in this report. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Here, here.
With no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
That seems to